Prior to the start of the season, CJ Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba were in the preseason Heisman conversation. But as this season has progressed, Stroud remains in the conversation, and I think there's one more Buckeye who deserves to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation at this point in the season.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, November 16th in the year 2022, and this episode of Locked On Buckeyes is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. During today's episode, we will discuss 3 ways Ohio State can improve over the next few weeks, and our weekly stock report is back. But before we get to any of that, at the beginning of the season for Locked On, we did a show discussing Heisman candidates. CJ Stroud quickly came up. And then I was asked, who are other players from Ohio State who you think will deserve to be in this conversation? Now, I know the betting odds, I said Travion Henderson and Jackson Smith-Njigba would be there. I know how I thought about Njigba at that time. He is really, really good. Did I think he was going to have another season like last year, this year? I said, I kind of paused on Njigba, didn't foresee him getting injured, and I really paused on Henderson because I was not sold on him. You guys know I am not sold on him like other people, even though he's a really talented back. But then the season started going on. Season started being played, and Njigba's name is not in there. Like I mentioned, still in it. He's dealing with injuries. Stroud's been in the Heisman conversation all year long, preseason until this week of the year. Henderson dealt with injuries. I still think if he was healthy, he would not be in the conversation. And then there's another player who to date this year has been phenomenal. 60 catches, 969 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, 16.2 yards per reception. You guys might know him. He is called by his teammates as Route Man Marv. We call him Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think he has made a case week in and week out to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation at this point in the season. You'll look out there and you will see Blake Corum, Caleb Williams, Drake May. You will see all these guys, Hendon Hooker. You'll see all these guys out there in the conversation for Heisman at this point in the season. If you follow RG3 on social media, I know on TikTok, he does the weekly update about who is in the Heisman conversation. Shadir Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, he puts him in there as well. And so with this conversation, Stroud has continually been there. I don't believe I have seen a receiver in this conversation on RG3's level. And RG3 is a very talented broadcaster. He's really good at his job. He watches the film. He understands what it takes to win the Heisman Trophy. And I firmly think Marvin Harrison Jr., not just by the numbers, not just by production, but being a reliable piece of the pie for Ohio State, deserves to be here right now. The numbers say one thing: 60 catches for 969 through the air, then 11 touchdowns. He has had numerous games of over, let me count them, 5 games where he's had over 100 receiving yards in a game against Arkansas State, against Toledo, against Michigan State, against Penn State, where he had 185 receiving yards, and then also against Indiana. He's had multiple games where he's had 2 or more receiving touchdowns. Arkansas State, he had 3. Toledo, he had 2. And then Michigan State, he had 3 once again. But to me, it's about reliability. not only being talented, not only having the amazing and wild, wacky catch he had over the weekend against Indiana, but are you reliable? And I believe when I mentioned Hendon Hooker and Drake May and Blake Corum and Caleb Williams and all those guys out there, CJ Stroud as well, they are reliable for their teams week in and week out. You have to be extremely talented. You're probably going to be a guy that's going to be a future top 10 or first round pick, probably top 10 pick, depending with all the positions that I've mentioned. Running back, probably first round, latter part of first round, maybe second, just because the NFL executives and coaches don't value that position like they used to. There are reasons for that. But Marvin Harrison Jr. has shown me enough that I need to see. He showed me enough every week for the Buckeyes that I think he deserves to be in this conversation. We marveled at Jackson Smith-Njigba's 96 receptions, over 1,600 receiving yards, and 16 touchdowns a year ago. With Marvin Harrison Jr.'s numbers right now, 11 touchdowns. Over the next couple weeks, he could have 3 touchdowns this week, to the following week. That's 16 touchdowns right there in the regular season. And that's assuming the Buckeyes win those 2 games. There's a Big Ten championship. There's at least one playoff game. We can be looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. realistically, if he has to go off during any game, having between 17 to 18, maybe 20 receiving touchdowns in this season alone. Is it crazy to think that? No. He could eclipse the 1,500 receiving mark. And then I don't say he's going to have 96 receptions, but buddy, he'll be doing some crazy things to show off his explosiveness and how lethal of a player he is. Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe he has showed the country he is one of the best receivers in the country. I think he has showed the country he is currently the most reliable receiver the Ohio State Buckeyes have right now. And I also believe he has showed the Buckeyes and the Heisman Trophy voters that he deserves to be on a lot of ballots at the end of the season. Will it happen? That's TBD, to be determined. But I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. has made a case to be on numerous Heisman Trophy ballots at the end of the year. You know what else I believe will happen at the end of the year, going till the end of the year, is improvement by the Ohio State Buckeyes. Not saying it's going to be somebody else that can emerge to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, but I believe that there will be improvements by the Buckeyes this week, next week, and the games they play after that. How can they improve? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode of Locked on Buckeyes is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's free and easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs. Once you do that, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is also brought to you by Ridiculously Good Salsa. It really is ridiculously good. We let our salsa fans tell our story, and this is what they say about ridiculously good salsa. I eat this salsa by the spoonful. My husband grabs a grocery bag and crushes the high heat. I come to the market just for ridiculously good salsa. I hide happy medium from my kids. The perfect tailgate food, and my favorite response, I just want to drink it. There is a delicious flavor for everyone. Mellow, mild garden goodness, No heat or spice. Happy medium, the sweet spot of salsa and our most popular flavor. And then there's high heat for those who like spice and flavor, but with a late hit. We are a local family owned business in Westerville, and we would love to share our salsa with you. Grab some ridiculously good salsa at Whole Foods in Columbus, Cleveland, the Hills Market in Worthington, Wheelands Market, the Butcher and Grocer, Rit Burger Market at Buckeye Lake, and the Greater Gouda in Delaware. Or order online at r.goodsalsa.com. That's r.goodsalsa.com. Follow us on Instagram at Ridiculously Good Salsa to see how we use our salsa in lots of recipes. Salsa all day with Ridiculously Good Salsa. The name of the game for a lot of teams is survive in advance. Win might be bowl eligible. That's some schools. Keep winning to get a better type of bowl game that they'll play in. But ultimately, when you are undefeated, it's kind of like March Madness. You win, you survive, you move on to possibly get a higher spot, get a spot in the playoff, or get a higher spot in the playoff. Now, for the Buckeyes, it's win, but you still haven't won the Big Ten championship. You're still not locked in to play in that game. So that is a factor in this. But if the Buckeyes are survive in advance, ultimately they want to improve if survive in advance is their motto. Now, I don't think it's survive in advance. It's improve, get better, obliterate your lesser opponents, show up and show out against the team up north to remind everybody who you really are and why you are the Ohio State Buckeye football team. So that when it comes down to it, the committee might just bump you up to the number one spot to play in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl instead of having a longer flight to Arizona to play in the Fiesta Bowl, the other semifinal site. But improving is something the Buckeyes have a luxury of right now because they can still get better. There are still games to be played, so you can ultimately still improve on the season we are currently in. Three quick ways the Buckeyes can improve over the next few weeks, couple weeks, ultimately to be a better team, remain undefeated, have a shot at the number one spot in the playoff, and be a team that's really the best contender to win the national championship in this season. You got to find a way to get other receivers involved. We have seen post-bye week, I don't know what it was pre-bye week, where Ibuka and Fleming, they were getting loose a little bit. Ibuka was turning heads and making phenomenal plays against Northwestern. He was somebody that when the Buckeyes needed somebody that was not a running back to run the ball, he was called upon, and he did a good job of it. But I don't know if lately Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy the Buckeyes can rely on, but they got to get somebody else to be reliable, consistently reliable in the passing game. Now, I mentioned a day ago, Xavier Johnson, he's a weapon the Buckeyes I think they can utilize and why he's going to be should be a big part of the future of the Buckeyes offense this year. You've also noticed this week I've done a lot of talk about the offense. The defense, I mean, we'll talk about them too here, but a lot of the improvements I've seen, that more of the issues are the offense, not the defense. Now, how can this passing attack on the offense get better? Get more receivers involved. You got to have Ibuka and Julian Fleming step up and be reliable and maybe take off the gloves if you're in inclement weather, if it's raining or if it's snowing, because once you get a little moisture on those gloves, they become slick. They become like ice, and it's going to be hard for you to catch the ball. So ultimately, you got to find somebody else to step up, not just receiver, also at tight end, because Case Dover has had some key mishaps, miscues of late, sometimes not misdirection or miscommunication. Ultimately, it's just not catching the ball. So you got to have somebody else step up in the passing game to ease and allow Stroud to better orchestrate the Ohio State offense to put all the points on the board. Defensively, you have to work on misdirection stuff. Because we saw it against Northwestern. They realized they are no match for the Buckeyes. They also realized they had something that worked against the Buckeye defense. Misdirection, guys not setting the edge, guys getting sucked down on the inside when your job is to set the edge, be the last guy on the line of defense. All of a sudden, you're parallel, which is great, but you're getting sucked inside instead of being that shield so that player does not get around you. You're giving him free access, similar to a left tackle who is a turnstile that's really turning his hips and turning so the defensive end can get around him. Ultimately, you as a defensive end, if you slide down, I love having a chair on wheels. Can't really slide like I want to on this carpet, but you get it. If you slide down, some of you guys watching the YouTube are getting a little bit more animation left to right than normal. You are giving the guy with the ball free access to the outside where you were supposed to be. Misdirections and counteractions have been an issue. The Wildcat was an issue for the Buckeyes. Will we see some of that down the road? That's TBD, to be determined. But ultimately, a team like Maryland, they know they're the lesser opponent. They know they're no match for Ohio State. They know Ohio State, even with the injury issues that they've had, Ohio State should obliterate and demolish them this weekend. They know these things. What might they do and try? One of the things that has given Ohio State issues of late. Now, we knew going into the season, this was going to be a bend, but don't break defense. If it breaks, it might be once, but it would not be twice, and it would not be for a lot of points. Do I think Maryland's going to score this weekend? Yes. Do I think they're going to score a lot of points this weekend? No. Should Ohio State shut them out? Yes. Do I think they should have shut out a few more opponents this year or any opponents? Yes, I do. But ultimately, I wouldn't be shocked if there's one touchdown. I would be shocked if there's 3, 4, maybe even 2 touchdowns in this game. But another way the team can improve, and ultimately, this one's not as easy to work on as the other two. Getting other guys involved, at receivers stepping up and doing the things they were doing pre-bye week, or even working on misdirections and counters, the things that have tripped up the defense. This other one, you got to hope some of these bodies hold up, man. Because you're going to be playing on turf, and turf does lend you to have more. It does lead you to have more lower body, lower leg injuries. And when you think about that, you're going to play games on turf. The Big Ten Championship is played on turf. Off the top of my head, I forget the type of field surface Maryland plays on. The game against the team up north is going to be played on turf. So you're going to have more. If you play in Atlanta, that's on turf. I do believe the national championship in SoFi, I believe that's on grass. So I think that might be a little bit different, but that's also in January. You got to win 4 games to get to that part of the year, buddy. So you got to hope some health holds up. The bodies hold up. Because if not, injuries might be the only thing holding this team back from winning a national championship in 2022. A segment that I love every single week, every Wednesday, is back once again. It's a little bit different than normal. How different is it? It's the stock report, and you'll quickly see how things are different for the stock report next, right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode of Locked on Buckeyes is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at betonline.net. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to betonline.net today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Your Ohio State Buckeyes do have a basketball game tonight. They play their 3rd game of the season. That is against Eastern Illinois. There will be a 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off on Big Ten Network. Planning on doing a show tomorrow, doing a little more basketball talk, but also getting you ready for the game against Maryland and some things you need to know about the Maryland Terrapins, the next opponent on the Buckeye football schedule. So we'll get a little basketball and football fix tomorrow on a Thursday. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Stock up, stock down. I got 3 for stock up. I only got 1 for stock down. Normally I have 3. Normally I can pick things apart. I can, but only 1 this week. Your boy's feeling kind of nice. but you understand why this is the one thing chosen for the weekly stock report at this point in time. Stock up on Josh Fryer. Has dealt with injuries at Ohio State. Pick surprising. Like a lot of guys deal with injuries at Ohio State lately. Not trying to be funny. It's just reality. But he has dealt with injuries at Ohio State. He is someone also that hasn't used in a different role this year than normal, than what he thought he would be utilized at prior to the start of the season. Josh Fryer, normally when he comes in, most of the plays he plays at or wearing number 41, ineligible receiver number. Now, he only comes in to block. It might be a weapon if the Buckeyes use down the road, where they want to allow him to catch the ball against the team up north in a goal line of short yardage package. Hint, hint, hint. Something we might see down the road Thanksgiving weekend. Just telling you. Look for Josh Fryer in goal line, third and goal of 3. Slips out, fakes a block, slips out over the middle, touchdown. Josh Fryer, you heard it here. I don't know if I said it first, but it wouldn't be shocked if nobody else is really talking about that wrinkle in the Ohio State offense. But he's normally wearing number 41. Being bumped out from one spot on the offensive line, it might make you feel like you're in no man's land because it's just a different area. He's done good all year. Ultimately, this past weekend, DeJuan Jones was a late scratch in the game. Josh Fryer comes out wearing number 70, his traditional number, not number 41, when he's in that when he's in an eligible receiver lineup for the Ohio State offense. And Josh Fryer, the right side of the O-line, did phenomenal work this weekend. And Josh Fryer is a big reason of that, where he started at right tackle this past weekend. Stock up on Josh Fryer. Stock up on Jesse Burko, the punter, the Aussie. He continues to be a weapon for the Buckeyes. If you want to flip the field, put Murko in if you have to punt. He'll go from 20 to 20 in no time. Jesse Murko continues to be a weapon for Ohio State when they're forced to punt the ball. Stock up once again on the Aussie. Stock up on Cameron Babb. Now, y'all know your boy could not do a stock report without talking about Cameron Babb, not just a moment and what it meant to the team, but also what it meant to him. You're coming in. You've been working. Rehabbing. Let's be more realistic. He's been rehabbing like crazy for years. Realistically, literally 4 years. And Cameron Babb comes in. And what does he do? Scores. His first career catch is a touchdown. Think about that story. 4 ACL tears, another leg injury, been battling stuff since his senior year of high school. 2-time captain, even though he doesn't play. Just shows you how much and how valuable he is to the brotherhood at Ohio State and how big of a locker room guy he is for this team. Cameron Babb, stock up. I also would not be shocked if we see Cameron Babb play more football over the next few weeks. Stock down on one part. Short yardage failures. Now, I thought it was just going to be a third down thing. I remember early in the game, I was there. Ryan Day came out, 3 straight passes. Even on 3rd and short, he went to another pass. And I'm like, I get it scripted, but why would you script 3 straight passes to start the game? Why? But he did it. It didn't work. There were some other short yardage issues, and it wasn't always a running game. Sometimes it was drop passes or guys getting covered. It was just really, really weird and odd to look and see the miscommunication for the Ohio State team this week. Even at one point, Ryan, they went for it on 4th down when I was like, put the special teams out there. Allow them to do what they should do. Short yardage issues continue to be an issue for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and ultimately, that is something they need to work on. Because if you want to win the Natty, if you want to cross off and check off the first goal on your list, beating the team up north, I guarantee there will be some moments when you have to convert 3rd and short, 4th and short to win that game. Out of here on a Wednesday, a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your fine podcast.